Okay, thank you. So our next presenter is going to be Victory Bunmi Abraham, and I'm sure you must have felt the how passionate Victory is from her first presentation, and now she's back today with another topic, organizing movement. Victory Bunmi Abraham is a passionate advocate for human rights with a focus on education and well-being of the girl child and marginalized groups. A mass communication graduate, she has extensive experience in social development, program design, and implementation, stakeholder engagement, advocacy, and community sensitization. Currently serving as a program coordinator at Stand with a Girl initiative, she leads impactful programs that promote education, empowerment, and sexual and reproductive health rights for girls. Certified in program management in global health from the University of Washington, she is dedicated to fostering an environment where every human can thrive and contribute to a more equitable society. Victory is a proud alumna of Power Shift Africa Fellowship. She is a passionate advocate for the new Nigeria dream, believing firmly in the power of collective efforts to drive meaningful change. Through her work, Victory seeks to harness the energy and creativity of young Nigerians to build a future for all. Embody the spirit of leadership, innovation, and community-driven solutions. Ladies and gentlemen, dear power shifters, please help me in welcoming our very own Victory Bunmi Abraham. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Victory, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Amina, for that introduction. And thank you, Benedicta. Apologies for all of the back and forth. Thank you, everyone. Good evening, everyone. It's nice to connect with us once again. I believe we've been having a very memorable time here through the fellowship sessions. Yeah, so thank you so much, Emily, for that wonderful and insightful session. And thank you for laying a solid background, a solid ground for my presentation. So good evening once again, everyone. I'm excited to be here, and I'm sure you're also excited as well. So we'll be doing this together like we always do. So today we will be looking at organizing movement, a practical approach. Next slide, please. So while the next slide is coming up, I would like us to be sincere. Mr. also gave us an assignment last week. How many of us have seen the movie Long Walk to Freedom by Mandela Nelson? Mandela Nelson, Long Walk to Freedom. How many of us have seen the movie? Okay, a lot of us have not seen the movie. Wow, interesting. Only 2 persons have seen the movie. Okay, beautiful. Thank you for being sincere. So we'll just move on quickly into our session for today. So first question, what is a movement and have you been part of one before? I'd like one person to talk. The rest of us can share on the chat box. So Angela Ademola, you're the first person to raise your hands. Go on. Thank you. Angela, can you hear me? Okay, if Angela
I
cannot
can
hear
hear you. Good
me,
evening.
okay.
I can hear you. Can you
Go
hear me?
on.
Good evening. Okay, so what is a movement, and have you been part of one before? So a movement is a group of people who come together collectively with the same mission, the same vision, and having the same purpose towards achieving a common goal in the society for a particular purpose, either for a particular time, short term, long term, or a full period of time. Have I been part of one before? Yes, I have been part of one before. For example, the Global Youth Representative of Nigeria, which is a mixture of short and long term. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Angela. That was really powerful. Yeah, so yes, I love your definition. Two key things that I would like us to put that I would like us to take seriously is that when talking about movement, we have to ensure that we don't take out sustained and organized, right? We've had a lot of movement. Emily had touched on the NSAS protest in 2020. So I'll just use the End Bad Governance movement. It happened last year. So would look at the shortfalls. What really went wrong? Was it really sustained? Was it organized? That's why we have a lot of movement that starts and then in the middle of it, it just dies off. And we know that ultimately what we want to achieve for every movement is that we have a particular goal that we want to achieve. And if movements are not organized and if they are not sustained, it would die and then we won't be able to achieve our goal. So I want us to put that at the back of our mind that movements are sustained, organized efforts by a group of people towards a particular goal, right? Okay, next slide, please. Are we together? Hello, are we together?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, we can
Okay,
hear you.
thank you very much, Amina. So why movement matters? Why do we organize movement? I mean, why shouldn't we just sit in our house and just enjoy life and care less? I mean, not get to bother ourselves about political issues, social issues. Why? Now, I'm going to be citing a bit of the Nelson Mandela's kind of movement. And we're talking about organizing movement in particular approach. So in most of my examples, I'll be citing Nelson Mandela's story. If for those who are yet to see the movie, I highly recommend that we go see that movie. It will give us a lot of light and understanding with regards to movement. Why organize a movement? One, to challenge injustice, amplify voices, drive meaningful change. Now, the question is, in Nigeria, are there issues that we are not comfortable about and we want, it's a burning concern in our heart and we want to see change? The answer is yes. Then our movement is able to help us shift culture, policy, and power, starting from the grassroots. Yes, very important. Every movement needs to start from a point, right? And then you need to start from where you are as an individual. We all have our collective roles and responsibilities as individual in starting up movements, which is what we're going to look into today. So we have procedures, we have guidelines, we have strategies that we need to employ in ensuring a sustained movement. Now, two key examples that can resonate with us: NSAS 2020, End Bad Government 2024. Now, we saw that all of this movement had one key axe. For the NSAS, all we wanted was end police brutality. And then for end bad government, youths led this and said, no, see, we don't want the government that we're having currently is not working for us. Things are not going fine. We want a change in the Nigeria. We want to see better policies. We want to see a country where things are working fine, So one thing we should also note is that movements don't begin with institutions. They begin with people. Very, very important. Movements do not begin with, and when we say institution, it's not a structure. People are structures, right? So movement begins with people. Next slide, please. Now look at that. Look at this picture. You see the stone? I specifically chose this picture so we could look at it. Now, this man is trying to push the rock by himself. The truth is that this rock is too big for him and he cannot push it alone. So we have to organize. That's the
Hello. So I think Victory is having a bit of network issue. Hello, Victory, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Welcome back.
Okay. Sorry about that. My network is okay. So next slide, please. Movement, we need to organize, and it's very important that we're strategic in organizing movement, and then it begins with people. Next slide, please. Okay, so what makes a movement? What makes a movement? I've earlier talked about the key elements we need to consider when looking at movement. One key factor is that we need to look at how sustained it's going to be. We have to ensure that it is properly organized. We have to be strategic in our organization. And also we need to ensure that, also take note that people are the bedrock of every movement. And then we need to ensure that for every movement, we have clearly defined goals, right? So now, definition. Just a movement is a collective effort to advance a shared cause through awareness, advocacy, and action. Angela gave us similar definition. Then we have different types of movements: social justice, political movements, feminist movement. We have a lot of movements going on, right? The key ingredients that we need to know for every movement is: one, we need to have a clear and defined goal. And this goal has to be a unified cause, one that touches on every individual who will be part of it. And the reason is this: if that particular idea or vision does not touch on an individual, be rest assured that that individual will not put in their whole self into that movement. So now let's take, for example, the end governance movement. It touched on all Nigerian. We were tired of the situation. We wanted a change in governance. We wanted a change in the situation we found ourselves. So movement has to be something that is of national interest. It shouldn't be something that has to fuel a personal interest. If you're doing something, a movement, and you're calling, and it looks as though it's tending towards personal interest, be rest assured that people will not really put in themselves into that cause. So it has to be something that is of national interest, and the goal and the vision has to be clearly defined. Now, I'm still using the end bad governance movement as an example. What happened? We saw that in the north. We saw a lot of sabotage on public properties. We saw young people taking up street lights, destroying government properties, destroying public properties. And then you ask yourself, really, was this why this movement was organized? The truth was that those young people who were involved in that did not really have a clear understanding of what the goal of that movement was about. They probably saw other people going to the street and say, we want good governance, and then they took the street, and it wasn't properly organized. Yes, just to put it that way. It wasn't properly organized to be able to have the yielded results that was needed for that particular movement. Then key ingredient we also need to understand is leadership. Now, every movement, in fact, anything you want to do at all, the leadership is very, very important. The people driving that movement are very key to the sustenance and survival of that particular movement. And then we need to ensure that while we are organizing, our leadership structure, we need to be inclusive. We need to be able to value people. We need to be able to love people, right? Because movement should be people driven, people based. It shouldn't be from a personal point. It should be from for the interest of the people. Now, another thing we also need to understand is that there is power. People power, right? People have power. Like I said from the start of this conversation, that movement is driven by people. And so people is, a very important component that we need to look at when developing movements, because you have to do movements with people. You can't do it alone. Also, our strategy and tactics has to be planned, We have to ensure that it is planned. We could maybe try to use dialogues or protests or campaigns or petition, whatever it is, whatever strategy we choose to use. We have to ensure that we are very strategic and it is well planned out. Next slide, please. Okay, now this is also very important, from vision to action. So how do we build our movement? Build from the base, right? Start with a core team. Now, going back to Nelson Mandela's story, he had a group of friends that he worked with. They were co-lawyers and they took decisions together, they shared their visions together. And you could see that for every stage that he had to go through in his fight towards freedom, towards against apartheid in South Africa, this group of persons were with him. They went with him to the prison. They were there all through. And even while in the prison, he was organizing. I mean, there was a very interesting scene where he mentioned that, you know what, we need to make a demand in the prison, right? We need to tell them to give us long trousers. And in my mind, I was like, really? I mean, what are you trying to do here? You're in prison already. I mean, is it not enough that you already have a problem in front of you that you need to solve, and then you're asking for what exactly? But then he had a reason for doing that. He wanted to see how, from the prison, he was making efforts to see how he could also change the narrative while in prison. He still organized with his friends, close allies. So you need to organize with a group of people, a core team, very important. It might be maybe 10 persons or 5 persons that really share the burden and passion that you have for that movement and believe so much in it and are willing to go the extra mile with you. It's with this core team that you can now reach the larger group of people, because you can't do it alone. And then when we work with this core team, we have our various skills and expertise that we bring in to ensure that we're able to organize properly. It's also important to identify stakeholders and affected communities, right? During the SARS protest, we had people come up with their stories of how their brothers, their loved ones were killed during the protest. They brought up those stories, and you could see the human angle side to it. A lot of us were touched by the stories, and it was easy for us to join the protest and say, yes, end SARS, end SARS, end SARS. And it's also important that you listen to people, right? Because people are the ones that drive movements. Are we together? I want to be sure that we are listening. You can hear me. Can you hear me, please? Okay, thank you, Emily. Thank you. Now,
Yes, we
Yes,
can
we
hear
can
you.
hear.
thank you. So there are things we could do while organizing. We can decide to host listening sessions, you know. I remember that at the start of the Mandela story, when his friend asked him, so what do you want to do about this? Because a black man was killed, and then he needed justice for the black man, and the white judge just dismissed the issue. And then his friend asked him, okay, so what do you want to do about it? There was one key thing he said. He said, we need to educate the people. Now, people would only react based on their level of knowledge. That is why it's very important that while we organize, we have to educate people and say, you know what, as a citizen, this is your right, this is our nation, Nigeria is ours. We need to organize to ensure that things, change with regards to the current situation that we find ourselves. And then we can do that through various strategies. We can do that through listening sessions. We can organize forums for young people, for our target population. We can use WhatsApp group. We can use town hall meetings. We can use radio outreaches. We can use free clinic services. In fact, right now, if you ask me, a lot of people are looking for free services, right? Free services that will meet their needs. Now, if you go to, let's say, an open field and you're carrying out a free clinical service, you'll see people come out. And when they come out, it's a strategy. You say, okay, we're going to give you this service, we're going to give you this information. But while you're doing that, you're also talking to these people and organizing them and say, do you know that this, that is happening and we need to take action? I mean, you see people that will say, yes, I think I agree with you. And you're like, oh, then how can we go about it? And you will find people who will be interested in working with you, right? Now, how do we mobilize for action? like I mentioned, I started mentioning already, organize events, town hall meetings, clean up campaigns, and take note that these things do not really have to be things that would cost you money. It's There are cost-effective strategies that you could use, in organizing, but just ensure that whatever you're organizing, it's giving value to people. People will definitely come. And then those are ways that you can get to have, you know, people talk about your vision and then see people join you in that movement. It's also important that you match action to your team's capacity. So while organizing as a leader, I believe we are all leaders in our rights, right? Now, it's important that you look through your team, be able to identify what each person can do, the capacity of your team member, and then you're able to assign roles to your team members. For example, if Jude is very good with community mobilization, I'll definitely use Jude as the person who would organize when we get to the community. There are people who are very good with public speaking, those are the people you put there to attract the attention of people on site. There are people who are good with management, welfare. There are people who are good with observing and taking notes of happenings around. Just identify the key skills that your team members have, and that way you know how to work with them effectively. Also, share personal stories to inspire empathy. For every movement, right, people want to see the human angle, like I mentioned earlier. In the NTAS protest, we saw that a lot of us were moved by real life stories that we heard. We were moved by the pictures and videos we saw of Nigerians who were molested by police, who had to go through police brutality. And the height of it all was at the toll gates when that incident happened between the police and where they had to shoot with the Nigerian flag. That was like an emotional moment for us. It was the height of it. And you could see Nigerians reacting to that because there was a story to tell about it and then it moved people. So for you to be able to bring for a movement to be effective, you have to be able to show people and say, see, bring real life stories, bring scenarios that touch on the emotions of people and bring it close to them and let them see that this thing affects you, it affects me, it affects all of us, and we need to organize, towards this. Now, very important tip is that while you're organizing, it's very important that visibility is very important. You can do that through people. Now, social media, there are various media platforms that makes it even easy for us to put out what we're doing that can reach a lot of people. Consistency is key, right? And also inclusiveness. All of these will build growth. Carry people along while you study people, value people, love people, and then movement should be people-centered. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, thank you. Now, movement must be sustained. If movements are not sustained, then there was no point starting it in the first place. It means that we cannot achieve the goal for which we started the movement. So now think long term. So while you start a movement, think long term. Now, there are examples that there are key points we can use to help us gauge, monitor our movements. One is we have the theory of change, and Mr. Nonso has been touching on this, I mean, in almost all of his session. So when we talk about the theory of change, just a bit of reminder for us. We start with ideology, right? So what is your ideology? And then it goes back to what we said initially, that you have to have a clear vision for why you're doing what you're doing. That's why people will go with you. Ideology. Next, in activism, you have to start talking about it, start engaging, start talking about it, start finding the right people you can share passions with, people who would work with you, people who will identify areas where you can start, making effort, and then you start getting the needed result that you want to see. And then engagement. You have to start engaging with the systems, engaging through people, and then political participation, where you are now, changing things at the hem of our affair, and not directly or indirectly, right? Now, one thing we should also remember, Mr. also mentioned that during his session, long work. It's a long work, really. It's not a it's It's not something that would just happen all of a sudden. It's something that would take time. And that's because we are where we are now in Nigeria. It took a lot of time for us to be here. Be rest assured that it will take a lot of time for us to get to where we want to get to. But the question we need to ask ourselves is that in the next 10 years, in the next 20 years, what nation do we want to see? And we know that we've been emphasizing on this, that we have roles that we need to play. We have responsibilities that we need to take up as young people to be able to change the narratives, right? And we can start now. We can start now by taking actions, by being strategic, by organizing ourselves and seeing how we can put ourselves together to be able to, change the narrative in our political history in Nigeria. Now, another thing we need to look at is SMART. I know we know what SMART is, right? Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. So this movement, it has to be specific. The people you're working with need to really understand what the movement is about, what it wants to achieve, right? Then the next thing is measurable. You should be able to measure, okay, this is what we want to do. Okay, at the end of the day, what and what are we hoping to achieve? We put it down. People should be able to see benefits in that movement. That's way they would put in the whole of their heart into it. Then is it achievable? Yes, it's achievable. Now anything is possible if you put your mind to it. That's why you need to maintain a positive spirit. And then one of our sessions touched on mindset, right? It's very important we have a positive mindset. It even starts first of all by loving your country. If you do not love Nigeria, there's no way you put in your energy to see things change in Nigeria. You have to start from that. Having a positive mindset towards the nation, right? Now, is it relevant? Yes, whatever fight or whatever movement that you want to start has to be relevant. And then if we're saying end bad governance, it's relevant to us, it's relevant to every Nigerian. And then time bound, that is what we cannot really decide because it will take a long time. But then it's something we can start now. And then, yes, we believe that with time, it might take 10 years, it might take 20 years, but we would see a lot of change. Now, let's not forget that we are where we are today because a lot of people had made sacrifices. They've done, they've organized movements that have brought us to where we are. One example, the killing of twins that was stopped by Mary Slessor. So let's imagine that Mary Slessor decided to stay in her country and didn't make any effort to come to Africa. And then twins are still being killed in Africa today. What that means that a lot of us will not be here today because we would have been affected by that barbaric act. And then this is just one amongst many examples that I would have given. A lot of people had to stand up for injustice, for a lot of social ills, which is what we are enjoying today. Our democracy, our independence, we had people who fought for it, right? So we also have a responsibility ourselves. Now, ladder of engagement. This it is called ladder of engagement. This would also help us while we work with people. We should understand that while organizing, not everybody would buy into our idea almost immediately. There are people who, they first of all start as observers. They want to see how far your movement will go. They just want to see, is it making headway? They just want to observe, from afar and see what you're doing exactly. And then from there, they might now change their mind and start following. Okay, let's just start following and seeing if any good result will come out of it. And then they now move on to endorsing, start telling other people about it. Please come. There is this movement that I think is making sense. I think we should be part of it. And before you know, they start contributing. They start becoming part of it, owning it, and then they start leading, right? Now, some persons, not everybody would follow this ladder of engagement. Some persons might just jump from zero to contributing. Some persons will just jump to owning. Some persons might start from observing to following to endorsing. But it's important that we understand that not everybody would follow us from the start. And it's fine, it's okay. Everyone has a value that they bring in. And it's important that you work with the people who are willing to work with you at the time. And also, in line with your movement, there are also people who might want to drop out while the movement is on. It's still fine, right? Keep a positive mindset as you continue. You know what your target, you know your goal, you know where you're headed for, but ensure that as you lead the people, ensure that the interest of the people, it comes first, I mean, it overrides personal interest. You put the value of people in front of you, and then you work closely with the people. Now, let's look at ways we can overcome challenges. I know a lot of us probably have done maybe some community engagement and all of that, and we already have experiences when it comes some challenges. Now we have low turnout. It can be discouraging when you're starting a movement and then in your head you're like, people should come out for this movement, and then you don't see people. What do? Build trust. People will only come out for something that they have trust in, right? People will come out for something that they feel, there's accountability here. So that's why leadership is very important, and we keep emphasizing on this. Leadership is very important. You have to be as transparent, you have to be as open, you have to be as clear as possible. Communication is very key. You have to communicate effectively. The people you're organizing with needs to know your heart. They need to know the next way. Once you're able to build trust in their mind, they will run with you to the very end. Nelson Mandela is a very good example. Those core team that he worked with, you saw that they were with him all through. They went to court, they were with him, they kept advising him. Even when they went to prison, they still worked together from prison, even after they were taken out of the island and taken to another house where they were like in house arrest. They were still working together till he was out of prison and he became the president of South Africa. So trust is very important. Collaboration is very important. And all of these are people-centered, right? Which is why you need to have value for people. Now, another challenge will be funding gaps. Now, I love the session that we had last. The speaker that talked on HCR. Hello, can you hear me? Okay, thank you very
Yes, we
much.
can hear you.
So remember that the human rights volunteer corps, right? He mentioned that they are self-funded. Now, and they're able to do a lot of things. They're able to impact their states and even take it beyond board to do a lot of things. He mentioned they were able to buy cars, they were able to release a lot of people, and they didn't get funding from any external source. Now, he said something very key. You are asking our slave masters to come and free us from our own bondage. I mean, who does that, right? Now, a lot of interventions in Nigeria are not sustained. Why? Because we depend heavily on donor funding. We're waiting for a donor to just come from nowhere and help us. Meanwhile, look at this point. Collaborate creatively. Do you know that when we come together, I mean, as young people, we can drive positive change and make a lot of impact without fund? Do you believe that? Now, for example, I have a particular skill in this area. Amina comes with her skill. Edet comes with his skill. Benson comes with his own. Fortune comes with his own. Mercy comes with her own. Angela comes with his own. We're able to put it together and say, oh, I think we can do this, we can do that, we can do that. We're able to organize ourselves without fund or with a little funding, are able to do much. Or better still, put our meager resources together and then we're able to do much. Also remember, he also mentioned that when the weak come together, they become what? They become strong, right? So collaborate creatively. We can leverage on each other's strength to be able to drive the change that we want to see. Now, one of the challenges we also need to overcome is internal conflict. And how do we do that? By open dialogue, right? Open dialogue. Next slide, please. Amina has given me notice already. Next slide. Okay, so we're wrapping up very soon. We'll be out of here. So I'd like us to speak now. I've been talking all along. Do anyone have an example they would like to share on an impactful movement in 30 seconds? An impactful movement you were part of and you'd like to share with us and how it started. It might be you, it might be someone you know closely, you'd like to share with us. One person in 30 seconds, maybe 1 minute. Amina, apologies. Do we have anyone? Okay, so no one is sharing. Key takeaways.
I can see Fortune's hand and Fortune and one other
Okay,
person.
sorry, I didn't see your hand. Okay, okay. Fortune, you can go on. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, before I go on, must it be the one I'm part of or someone I know?
Anyone you know you're part of.
Oh, okay. So I'll talk about the I'll talk about Aluta Continua, the movement. Most of us use the term, but we don't know the meaning. We don't even know how it started or where it came from. It was the movement that started with the Frelimo Party of Mozambique. It was against the colonial masters. The movement was against the colonial masters. So they took the words of the colonial masters. Aluta is a Portuguese language. So they were colonized by Portugal. So they were fighting for their independence and they took the words of their colonial masters and started using it against them as a rallying cry for their activism. And after everything, there were assassinations, there were a whole lot of things, but victory was later achieved. So that's why it became kind of the official motto, "A luta continua, Victoria, etc." So from there, it spread out to other countries, to the students' community, and a whole lot of things. I have the details, but you said 30 seconds. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing, Fortune. Thank you. Yeah, so key takeaway, movement growth through purpose. Like I mentioned, clear vision, visibility is important. People need to know what you're doing. You also need to build trust, right? Now change starts from the bottom up. Start where you are. Wherever you are, you can start something. Next slide, please. Conclusion. Okay. I'm concluding now. So there's a quote here: never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. This is Margaret Mead. Now, thank you so much, everyone. Let's not forget that while organizing, we have to be very strategic. It has to be sustained. And then let's also not forget that people are the bedrock of every movement. And we need to ensure that we place value on people while organizing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. One of the key takeaways I got from her is that movements do not start with institutions, it starts with people, it starts with a human being, it starts with an individual, it starts with you, and it starts with me. Please confirm you can hear me. Okay, thank you. So I'm very sorry for the interruptions in today's meeting, today's session. It was network really did a lot, but we overcome because we are done. And this is now the point where we get to hear from you. You've listened, you've noted things down. We know you have questions that are bubbling inside you. So this is the time now to ask your questions. We barely have time. You can use the in-app chats to put in your questions, or you can just raise your hand if you have questions. Are there questions, please? Okay, I'm seeing a hand. But I'm trying to get the name. Ayo, please just unmute your mic and carry on, please.
That was a mistake. But anyway, I think this was a very insightful um, presentation. So then my question would be I mean, we made mention of Mandela's the movement, but then do you still think? I mean, do you think where we are right now? Because of course, I believe the reason why NSAS was successful was because like it wasn't really planned, so to say. Unlike the previous, I mean, the latest one that everybody was coordinating and eventually it failed. So, do you think that while we are trying to coordinate and do like organized protests, do you think presently in Nigeria these politicians we have would not be also planning to sabotage it, or maybe to bribe some, I mean, create faction and then bribe some? Or how do you, I mean, do you see big protests coming up again in Nigeria very soon? Thank you.
Benedicta, can I respond? Hello? Hello?
Hello, can anyone hear me?
Now I hear you. There was disruption before.
Hello, Victoria, can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now. I can hear
Hello?
you now.
Okay, Victoria, are you back?
Ma?
Yes, I'm back. Sorry about my network. Yes, can you
So
hear me
please,
now?
we are just going to respond to the first question, and that's all
Okay.
because
Okay, so if I got your question right, please, can someone help me retake the question again? I didn't get the question. Thank you.
Are you referring to me?
Hello, Benedicta, are you speaking? I can hear you.
I
Hello?
think our time is fast spent. I think our time is fast spent. And who got the question, please? I didn't get it clearly either.
Are
But
you
we can
referring
also
to
use
the
the
question I asked?
yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so my question is basically, referring to some of the movements that you mentioned, and I just as we were talking, I was just thinking, the reason why I think the last protest that was supposed to be a very big one as well failed was because I mean, there was a lot of coordination that was going on. Oh, so we are doing this time, and eventually it failed. Of course, maybe because of political interference and propaganda, and stuff. So, what is the tendency of of organizing a protest soon, a very one, I mean, very big one soon, and how successful do you think it could be? Of course, NSAS was successful. Why? Because there wasn't a lot of coordination. Like wasn't really planned, so to say. So that was my question.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. Yes, we can say NSAS was successful, but the question is, was it really, really, really successful? Because um, we still do have record of police brutality happening in Nigeria. Go on the road. I mean, if you drive, a lot of things are still happening. A lot of things are still happening. So that's why we said that movements have to be really organized. Now, going by the Nelson Mandela's story, you could see that he was strategic with the people he worked with. So it's not every movement that has to be on the streets. doing protests, carrying placards and shouting and carrying gun and all of that. So there are, like I mentioned, there are activities that we can do. For example, campaign, radio shows, and all of that. These are part of the things that we can do to ensure that we're able to organize properly and listen to people. We already know the system we find ourselves. We know our country. And then in the second protest, that's the end bad governance. We did not take example. We did not learn from the end SARS protest. We repeated the same mistake, which is why the end governance protest did not really go well. You saw he was halted. So we need to organize, we need to be strategic in our planning, we need to have people on ground that we organize, and they should also understand the vision of what we want to do. Then you listen to people, you also come back and evaluate the action, what you are doing. Is it really making headway? Find another strategy and find other ways to go about it. So we don't just wake up one morning and say, yeah, let's jump on the streets, let's go and shout. It will not work, it will fail. I don't know if I'm able to answer your question.
Okay, thank you so much, Victory. Any other question? We can actually use the group to interact because we're already out of time. Thank you so much for joining in. And like before, please, I'm sorry for the interruptions, the network interruptions. It was something else today. So sorry about that. Thank you all for joining in and look forward to seeing you again.
Hello.